Welcome everyone, welcome to Gentle Yoga. Today we are going to need a chair, a strap / belt, block, and a towel. So we're going to start on our back in a supported back bend. Let's take our towels, fold it in half, and then you're going to take the long side of the towel and roll it up. And there you go. You're going to put the towel towards the back of your mat. Get all of the wrinkles out. And then sit in front of the short end of the towel. So your bottom's on the floor. And then you're going to lay on down, spine and head supported. Make sure your belt's within reach. So just taking a moment with the knees bent, thighs falling together. You're welcome to have the arms alongside your body or out left and right. Some folks, you might enjoy having the arms behind your head. Letting the support of the towel create an elevated space so the outer shoulders can come towards the floor. Nice gentle chest opener. And welcoming yourself to your practice. Greeting yourself with an inner smile or an outer smile and saying welcome. Say your name to yourself. And then just practicing that 3-part breath that we've been working on. So inhale, expand your belly and low back. Exhale, feel the belly and low back. Draw in just naturally. We don't need to force anything. And then inhale, belly, low ribs. Exhale, low ribs draw towards center, belly draws towards center. Now all 3 parts. Inhale, belly, low ribs, chest. Exhale, chest, low ribs, belly. Think about the back body too as you inhale, low back, mid back, upper back. Exhale, upper back, mid back, low back. So feeling 360 degrees of expansion in each part. A few more rounds of breath like this. And then starting to windshield wiper your knees side to side. You'll notice my feet aren't touching. Just like windshield wipers don't touch. You can bring your arms left and right. And maybe you want to do something a little extra with your arms. You could extend the arms back behind you, a little bit of a morning stretch each time you move knees one direction or the other. Pause perhaps for a couple breaths on one side and then the other. And then we'll come back through center. Roll to one side, coming off your towel. Put the towel, just let it come to the side for now. We're going to just be flat on our backs, no towel. And then let's roll to our right side in like a fetal position. Knees are bent, hips are stacked. Extend your arms forward in front of the shoulders, palms together. You're always welcome to stuff like a towel underneath your head if it feels like a little too abrupt to have the head on the floor. We're going to just work on the shoulders a little bit. With an inhale, rainbow your left arm up and back behind you. As you do this, you're opening into a twist. As you exhale, swing the left arm down And then shoulders are stacked once again. You're in your beginning position. So just like that, inhaling, we're half a circle out into a twist. As we exhale, we swing the arm down, closing the circle, beginning in our fetal position. Keep moving. How nice and slow can you make this movement? Really extending, reaching. And the next time you open up into the twist, let's just pause there. Turning your head to the left if that feels good. And then coming back through center, come onto your back. Let's do the second side. Now we're laying on our left side, fetal position. Inhale, swinging top arm back and out, opening into a twist. Exhale, arm comes down, circling down back to our beginning position. Keep moving. Inhale to open, exhale to close. And see if you can just make it like it's one continuous movement too, just like the breath is one continuous movement. And then we'll open up into the twist and pause there. Head turning to the right. That right shoulder is moving towards the floor. And then on an exhale, circle that right arm down, close the arms. And come back onto your back. Knees bent, feet on the mat, heels under knees. A little bridge flow. So inhale, lifting the hips, sweeping the arms up and back behind you. Keep your gaze on the ceiling. Exhale, roll down the spine, hips down, arms alongside the body. Keep moving with your breath. As the hips lift, be sure that the feet are planted in the floor. Inner thighs are active, making sure those knees don't swing apart as you come up. And now let's see if we can articulate the spine. So as you lift the hips, draw your tummy in, exhale, roll down the spine, arms alongside the body. Let's do that twice more, really working on the spine this time. Inhaling, lifting, gaze stays on the ceiling, exhaling, roll down the spine. One vertebrae at a time, rear's the last thing. One more time, lifting. Good, and then we're going to keep the right arm behind us. Exhale, lower the hips to the mat and the left arm to the mat. So let that right arm just be soft. Head turns to the left. Inviting a stretch into the right side of the neck. It's okay if that right arm bends a little bit too. Just let it be heavy. If you don't have this kind of range of motion in your arms, you could always just bring the arm out as far back as you can bring it. And then let's do the second side. So on an inhale, lift the hips, gaze to the ceiling. Left arm back behind you. Now right arm to the mat, hips to the mat, head turns left. Do your best to surrendering the left arm in particular. Surrender it to the floor. Good, Good, inhale, come back through center. Lift the hips, right arm back behind you, both arms back behind, and then exhale, roll down the spine. Both arms land on the floor alongside the body. Okay, let's bring our hands to our, let's stretch out the legs. Locate your strap. Draw your right knee into your chest and then lasso the right foot, extending right leg towards the ceiling. If you find as you extend your right foot towards the ceiling, the right heel, that your tailbone kind of lifts off the floor, the hips get light, try lowering the leg, and you can keep it straight for this variation. Lower the leg until you can feel like you're really grounded in the back of the pelvis, and then from there, just very slowly inquiring, how can I get a stretch and keep the back of my pelvis grounded? You want to keep your low back kind of light away from the mat, so not really rounding the back a bunch here. Good, and then you're going to grab the strap with your left hand, float the foot just a little to the left until you start to feel a stretch in the IT band area, the outer hamstring area. I find that when I float my foot to the left, my right hip really tries to crimp up towards my face. It kind of creeps up. To counter that, if that's happening for you, take your thumb, dig it into your hip crease, right where the leg meets the pelvis, and push the pelvis away from the body as you float the foot to the left. Hopefully you'll find it creates a little bit more space in the back, a little bit more sensation in the stretch. Good, and then we'll float the leg the opposite direction. Options with the opposite leg. You can let the left knee fall open, kind of like half cobbler's pose, or maybe you want to extend the left leg long. Whatever you do, try to keep your pelvis level, tummy engaged, and opening up that right leg to the right. So we want to be mindful and aware that we're not collapsing onto the right side. The left hip, we don't want it off the floor, we want it on the floor. Reaching through the inseam of that right leg. One more breath. And then bringing it back through center and release. We'll do the second side, drawing left knee into the chest, lasso the left foot, float it up. Grounding through the pelvis, feel your breath. So for the last handful of classes, we've been going through Jon Kabat-Zinn's Foundations of Mindfulness. These are kind of flavors to keep in our mind as we're approaching any mindful practice, which includes yoga. And by keeping these kind of attitudes, these different attitudes in our mind as we're approaching our mindfulness practices or mindfulness in life, it helps us come more into the present. It helps our mindfulness practice. So the attitude, the foundational attitude today that we're practicing is acceptance. And Jon Kabat-Zinn says acceptance is just accepting this moment as it is. Okay, let's get into the outer left hamstring. So just float the foot to the right, strap in the right hand. Maybe you like digging that thumb down and pushing the outer hip away, kind of wrapping it down. Feel a breath. And so this acceptance is just simply starting where you are. Just watching for the ways that sometimes it can cause so much suffering and burn up so much energy trying to deny what actually is in the moment. And so he's inviting us to come to peace a little bit more with what is. And that's not to say that we're just throwing up our hands and saying we can't do anything about our situation, but just simply starting where we are, starting where things are. So let's float the foot to the left now. So strap comes into the left hand, swing the leg out to the left, right? Maybe you extend that right leg. Reach through the inseam of that left leg. Reach, reach, reach. And in fact, reach through the opposite leg if you have that leg straight. Reach it out. And the way we can practice this in our yoga practice is just accepting where our body is in the present moment. Maybe yesterday our body did X, Y, and Z. Maybe today it's not doing X, Y, and Z. And then coming back through center and release. Give yourself a hug. Rock a little side to side. Okay, place the feet on the floor. Knees are going to stay bent. Hands on hip points, so little bony bumps in the front of your pelvis. Hands there. And just take a moment to notice what parts of your back are touching the mat, what parts are not, or maybe some areas are light. Like perhaps the low back feels a little light off the mat, or there's an area that isn't touching the mat in the low back. Now I'd like you to do some pelvic tilts. So tilting the front of your pelvis towards your face, so the low back flattens, and then tilting the front of the pelvis away so that the low back starts to arch. So a few more times like that. Just gonna remind us all to consider where our pelvis is as we're moving through our yoga practice, moving through our day. Do we tend to kind of sway in the back, or maybe tuck our tailbone as we move through our day or our practice? So see if you can find a nice neutral pelvis that feels like you're not really tight in the low back. You can engage the core. It looks a little different for everyone, so you're gonna have to find that on your own. However, finding somewhere that feels like good middle ground. Exhale, draw your tummy in completely. Keep the tummy toned. And we're going to do a very subtle, very gentle core exercise. So the circumference of your waist is squeezing in. And then just extend your right leg and hover it just a couple inches above the mat. Watch what happens to the pelvis, okay? Try to avoid overarching the low back. Keep the pelvis neutral. Tummy's toned in. Another thing that could happen is that as we're here, maybe the right hip dips down, left hip pops up. You want to keep all that. The low belly is really pulling in. We are engaged in our pelvic floor. You can point and flex the right foot. Let's get a little ankle love going on. Point and flex. And then circles with the ankle. Keep breathing. Neutral pelvis. Keep that low back supported by the core. And then we'll do the second side. So right foot on the mat. Let's go nice and slow as we notice what happens on this side. So tummy's in, neutral pelvis, left leg extends. Take a moment to readjust your pelvis if you need. Feel your breath. And we'll point and flex the foot. So the whole core set of core muscles around your trunk, we're hugging them in. Even though our belly is hollow, we're breathing. Circles with the ankle. Keeping the pelvis level too. Watch that the one hip doesn't try to pop up. And then left foot to the mat. Just take a moment, rest. Okay, go ahead and roll to one side. Come on up. We're going to have two options, two tracks here. Track for folks who are okay with being on their knees, tracks for folks who are not okay with being on the knees. So people who would prefer not to be on your knees today, I would like you to have a seat in your chair. Have your heels just in front of your knees. People who are okay with being on the knees, if you need a little padding for your knees, we will be doing some knee stuff. I encourage you to bring your towel and place a little bit of padding extra for those knees. So, folks, for hands and knees, you're going to exhale, round the back, couple breaths, and then inhale, arch the back, couple breaths. People in the chair, same thing. Exhale, round the back, a couple breaths, just give a nice stretch. And then inhale, arch the back, couple breaths. And then just moving the spine. What feels nice today? Okay, and then doing a variation of Vajrasana. So people who are on your hands and knees, you're going to sit back on the heels, bringing your forehead towards the floor or to the floor. It's okay if the heels, the bottom is off the heels at this point. Hands stacked face up on the sacrum. On an inhale, stand up, leading with your heart, reach up. Exhale, rear goes back. Lead with your chest, swan dive forward. Strong legs, strong glutes. Little tap of the forehead on the floor. That's what you'll be doing up and down with the breath. Folks in the chair, inhale, sweep the arms up. Exhale, keep the thighs parallel. As you swing the arms out to the sides, palms can face each other. And then inhale, lead with your chest open-hearted, broad chest. Reaching up. Exhale, coming down. Good, let's all move with our breath. Ooh, about 3, 4, 5 more times. Good, one more time, up towards the sky, and exhale. Hands and knees, folks. You're going to come into child's pose, sit back on your heels, breathe. People in the chair, have your feet, the heels just in front of the knees, and then exhale, fold forward. You could rest on your elbows. You could bring your fingertips to the floor and let your head go. So we're all in a forward fold. Breathe deep. Okay, let's come on up. People who are on your hands and knees, you're going to stand up on those knees. Check your pelvis. We want to have a neutral pelvis. So here's a nice opportunity to check that neutral pelvis. Core engaged. And folks in the chair, you can do this as well. Finding in that neutral pelvis position. And then gate pose. Left foot comes out. Reaching right arm straight up for a moment. Just get as tall as you can. People who are in the chair, left leg out, reach up. Maybe we take it into a little bit of a side bend. You're welcome to if that feels really nice today. And then we'll go the opposite direction. So right hand to the mat. You could also put a block under your right hand if it feels kind of high off the ground. So my hand, knee, and foot, they're all on a line. Like if I had a line through the center of my mat, they would all be on it. So bringing that right hand to that block or the floor, and then extending the left arm straight up. Options, if you want to go a little deeper, You bring the hand to the back of the head and then point the elbow as far from that left foot as possible. Keep the tummy in. Those of you in the chair, you can still do this too. So I would actually bring the right hand to the edge of the chair or the armrest of the chair and then just side bend. Or maybe reaching. Couple more breaths. And then exhale. Focus on the floor. You can swing that left arm down. Come to hands and knees. And then inhale, come on back up. Standing on knees. Let's do the second side. Everybody. Right foot out to the right. Check that pelvis. Get it neutral. Left arm reaches up overhead. Getting really tall. Drawing that tummy in. Maybe you want to take it to that side stretch. Feel free. And so even though we're getting a side stretch, we're watching that neutral pelvis, really press the right foot into the floor. Okay, let's go the opposite direction. Left hand to the mat. Right arm reaches up. Rotating your heart towards the ceiling. If you'd like more, bring the hand to the back of the head and point the elbow away from that right foot. You could try leaning the head back into the hand, opening the heart a little more towards the ceiling. Press that right foot into the floor. Feel your breath. Let's take one more cycle of breath. Good, and then release. Come on down through hands and knees. Options. You are either going to sit back in child's pose or take a downward dog if you have downward dog in your practice. Those of you who are in the chair, or maybe you're not in the chair, maybe you just like a good old-fashioned chair dog. We're going to do chair dog too. So you could bring the hands to the back of the chair or the seat of the chair. Extending the hips away from the chair. The knees could bend a little bit so that the heart can really melt towards the floor. So find a forward fold that feels really nice for you. Couple breaths. Returning to either a seat or hands and knees. So we're going to be doing a little bit more knee stuff. Please stay in the chair if you need. Coming into lizard pose. So I'll talk to the mat people first. You're going to step your right foot forward. And then your hands are either going to come to the inside of the right foot on the mat, or if that feels like just too abrupt of a stretch, bring your hands to a block to the inside. So let me see, I think you guys can see me. So the hands or the block, they're in line with that foot. I've got my knee either just behind the heel or maybe right over it. Folks in the chair, you're going to take goddess pose. It's like second position, right? And you're going to bring your hands down onto a block just between the legs here on the floor. And then you're going to walk your block, or maybe your hands come to the mat. Walk them towards the left foot and then away from the chair any amount. Keep pressing your feet into the floor. You'll notice all corners of my feet are in the mat. My knees are staying open, okay, so watch that the collapse doesn't happen. We want to stay open, stay broad in the chest. Okay, and then we're going to move into a twist. People who are on the floor, left hand stays on the floor, on the left edge of the mat. Right arm reaches up. Some of you might enjoy tucking that back toe and lifting the back leg if you like. Or keep that knee down. Those of you in the chair, walk the block back to the inside of the left foot. Right hand to hip. Drop left shoulder, lift right, open. And then lean your head back. Stay heavy in your right hip. A couple breaths. Good, and then coming back through center, both hands on the block if you're on the chair. And just pause. Those of you in lizard pose, let's switch sides. Right knee on the mat, left foot forward. Hands to a block on the right edge of the mat, or maybe hands to the floor. Exploring here. I find I can swing my hips a little left and right. The sensation changes. And of course, you chair folks, you're going to walk the block over towards the right. And then maybe just keep walking it, pressing that foot, those feet down into the floor. All four corners of the feet into the mat. And so just even now, notice if there's any way that you could practice acceptance in this posture. And then we'll move into the twist. So chair people, you're going to walk your block to the inside of the right foot, left hand to hip, lift left shoulder, drop right, and then lean the head back. Nice and slow. And of course, folks who are in lizard, you will just lift the top arm, maybe leaning back as well. One more round of breath. Good, and then step the left knee back. If you're on your hands and knees, take a moment, child's pose. If you're in your chair, walk the feet closer together. Thighs are down parallel, feet are parallel, and then fold forward. Maybe elbows to legs or hands to floor. Practicing that three-part breathing. Inhaling, expand low back, mid back, upper back. Exhale, upper back, low back, mid back. Okay, come on up. We are going to do a little bit more stretching of the back of the leg. Those of you who are on the mat, you're going to step your right foot forward once again. And then walk the right foot forward until you can balance on that front heel. Ardha Hanumanasana, so half Hanuman. You can bring your hands on either side of the leg. You've noticed my knee is kind of bent. I think it feels fabulous with the knee bent. I can keep my chest open. You could also place hands on a block if it feels just too abrupt. Those of you in the chair, you're just going to extend the right leg forward. Toes peeling back. That's going to give you the stretch in the calf. And then folding elbows or forearms on that left thigh. Couple more breaths here. Good, and then we'll switch sides. Okay, left leg out in front. And I really encourage you to come at this forward fold with an open chest. So keeping the chest open, the foot flex, hinging from the hip crease, right where the leg plugs into the body, and then bringing the hands down and just noticing how that sensation changes. Sometimes if we're real tight in the backs of the legs, it can cause us to round in the back, and then we escape some of that good stretchiness, stretchy that happens in the hamstrings. Last breath. Okay, and then we'll finish with some sort of forward fold. So everyone either folds over the legs, maybe child's pose again if you like. If you like a downward dog, take it. A few rounds of breath. And then let's all meet on the floor. We're going to be face down. We're going to do some belly down back bends. If you have a tender or tight low back, take your towel, fold it up so it's a little thick, and you're going to lay your midsection on it, so your belly in particular. It's going to cause your back to not over arch. So coming on down. And just real simple, we'll come in and out of locust, alternating a head turn. So to begin, bring your entire body, your forehead to the mat, and then walk your toes as far from your heart as you can get them so that your spine is real long. On an exhale, draw your tummy in, find a neutral pelvis, and then slowly inhale, lifting arms, legs, nice and slow. Gaze to the top of the mat, lifting chest. On the exhale, bring your right cheek to the mat, lowering down. Rest. When the inhale arrives, slowly lifting legs, chest, gaze to the front edge of your mat, nice and easy. Exhale, turn your head so that your left cheek comes to the mat as you exhale. Lowering down with that exhale. Inhale, coming back up. Think length rather than height. Exhale, turning head. Return limbs to the floor. Inhale, nice and slow, lifting. Move the heads of the shoulders away from the mat. Gaze forward. Exhale, head turning. Return to the mat. Let's do that once more on either side on your own time, really paying attention to all of the muscles as they engage. Really paying attention to all the muscles as they disengage. Next, you're going to inhale and just try lifting your arms and your chest. Keep your feet down. Gaze forward. Place your hands underneath your shoulders, and then slowly push on up through hands and knees. Exhale, round your back, moving back, heel towards, rear towards heels. Then inhale, come on back up through hands and knees, broaden chest, look forward. Exhale, round the back, rear to heels, elbows to the floor, head towards the floor. Last one. Good, and now you're welcome to stay in child's pose. If your knees are sensitive, flip over on your back and just hug the knees into the chest. You're also welcome to come into a downward dog or a chair dog. That might be really nice to just stretch out the entire back body, have a real calming effect on the nervous system. So we're all going to be in some sort of forward fold for 5 breaths. Please use the chair for the chair dog if you need it. Two more rounds of breath. And then let's return back to the floor on our bellies. Move your towel aside if you have it underneath your tummy. Try doing this without the towel, but if you need it for your low back, please bring it back. We're going to stretch out our inner thighs with half frog variation. So, stack the forearms. You can rest your forehead down on the forearms for this. That's the most gentle variation. You could also prop up your elbows and be like in a sphinx for this. So you know what, I'm going to do the sphinx version because then you'll be able to hear me. So bend the left knee and slide it towards the left shoulder any amount. And then do your best just to kind of relax into this posture. So since I'm doing the Sphinx version, I'm noticing I'm also getting a nice stretch in the front of the right thigh too as well. If this feels too much for you, you're always welcome again to stack the forearms, bring the forehead to them. Playing around too to see if you can feel a little more sensation in the inner left thigh. You could try kicking the foot further away from you. You could try bringing the thigh even, the knee even closer to the left shoulder. It doesn't have to be like the biggest sensation ever. Think of it more of like a yin pose. We're just relaxing into the earth. We're using our breath. If you're up on your elbows though, you're going to need to keep your tummy in and really lift your heart. If your forehead is on your forearms, let your tummy get soft. Let's take one more cycle of breath. And then straighten that left leg back behind you. Second side. Bending now, right knee. And adjusting the leg position till you find that sensation. Core engaged, chest open if you decided to be up on the elbows. And belly soft if you're resting your forehead on those forearms. Breathe deep. Just a couple more rounds of breath here. Good, and then when you feel nice and balanced, you're going to start to stretch that right leg back behind you. We're all going to rest our foreheads on the mat. Soft tummy, soft bottom. Bend your knees and then wag your legs back and forth. Good. Go ahead and flip over. You are going to locate your strap once again. Drawing the knees into the chest. Give yourself a hug. And then I'd like you to take your strap and wrap it over the top of your left foot. Okay, and then return both knees into chest. So now both knees are bent, thighs are parallel. And then extend your right leg straight up towards the sky. And then cross right thigh over left. So it's like you're seated in a cross-legged position, okay? You've got your strap on your bottom foot. Take a moment here. So you could just kind of put the strap there aside. See if you can leave it there for a second. And hug those knees into the chest. So this is like Supta Gomukhasana, or reclined cow face pose. You can let your low back flatten to the mat if that feels nice for this variation. Hugging the knees in. If you need more sensation, you would walk your hands down towards the ankles. You'll notice that my hands are on opposite ankles, and it just happens that way because we're all crossed up, right? So I'm going to give some options here. You could stay here and just stretching the outer right hip. Or if you want to get into the quad, the top of the left thigh, here's where we're going to go. Your left hand is going to come to your top knee. That's your right knee. Your right hand is going to grab the strap on your bottom foot. Let your bottom leg fall to the floor. That's your left one. Bottom leg falls to the floor. Here we are. Now we're getting a stretch. My left knee is pointing to the top of the bottom of my mat, I guess, one edge of my mat. I'm holding my opposite knee with the left hand. Some of you may not need a strap. Maybe you just grab a hold of that foot. Some of you might find that you want to start to open up the right knee. So the top knee, the right one, opens and it changes the sensation. Keep breathing. As we're opening the top of the left thighs, we need to go easy. If we get a little too intense, sometimes we can kind of stretch closer to the knee and the knee doesn't feel very good afterwards. So if this doesn't feel like a good stretch for you, you can always come just into supported bridge, like slide a block under your bottom and just rest there. You can stretch both your quads that way. And then we'll switch sides. Okay, so come back through center. You're going to release the strap from the foot. Help the left knee into the chest. Give yourself a hug once more. Can't hug yourself too many times, right? Okay. Now, strap comes to the top of your right foot. Okay, and then you're going to just very gently leave it there. Thread the left leg up towards the ceiling, right? So we're going to, I got my bottom foot, and then cross left thigh over right. Cow face pose, right? So we're going to do the outer hip. There's no space between my thighs. You might just hug the legs in and let your back release to the floor. Breathe deep wherever you are. If you need more sensation in this outer left hip opener, walk your hands towards your ankles, any amount, and start to pull the feet apart. They're moving away from each other. And just checking in, is there any acceptance that you could practice right now in this mindful, curious witnessing of sensations that you're experiencing? Okay, and then we'll move into the quad stretch. So stretching the top of the right thigh next. Here's how we'll do it. The left hand is going to grab a hold of that strap. Okay, so it's still on the bottom foot. Right hand is going to come to the top knee. That's your left hand. That's your left knee, right? So the top knee is the left one, right? And then bottom leg, let it fall to the floor. Bottom leg moves to the floor. So now bottom knee is pointing to the short edge of the mat. Take a moment here, just feel in. We're getting that bottom foot as close to your rear as you can. Maybe you grab a hold of the top of the foot. Maybe you don't need that strap. And then explore, be curious. Maybe moving the top knee off to the left. And if the breath stops, we know we've gone too far, we got to come out. Or maybe there's just some acceptance to practice, and that would allow the breath to flow again. Okay, let's come on out of it nice and easy, releasing, and then drawing the knees into the chest. Bringing the feet to the mat. And then letting the knees fall open for a moment, reclined cobbler's pose. Bring the arms around the head, really loose, kind of like a halo. Now your body looks like the number 8. And then play around with the position of your pelvis. Finding a neutral position. And now swinging the arms down alongside the body. Help the knees together. One last twist and then we'll go to Shavasana. So knees into chest, arms go left and right. Okay, legs are going to go to the floor towards the left, and head turns to the right. One more round of breath in this twist. And then come back through center. Let's go to the other side. Legs go right. Head turns left. Breathe. And then coming back through center and preparing for relaxation pose. Extend your legs. Let your arms spill off the mat. Let your body be heavy. Soften your face. Close your eyes. Finding any kind of support that you need for relaxation pose. And as you move into relaxation pose, I'll just read you a little quote from Full Catastrophe Living. That's John Kabat-Zinn's book. that these foundations of mindfulness are coming from. He says we should try not to impose our ideas about what we should be feeling, thinking, or seeing, or experiencing. Instead, we should just remind ourselves to be receptive and open to whatever we're feeling, thinking, or seeing, and accept it because it is here right now. If we keep our attention focused on the present, we can be sure of one thing, namely that whatever we're attending to this moment will change, giving us opportunity to practice accepting whatever it is that will emerge in the next moment. Clearly, there is a wisdom in cultivating acceptance. Shavasana. If you can stay in relaxation pose a little longer and would like to, please do. If you need to move on with the rest of your day, start to wiggle your fingers and toes. And then moving a little more until you're ready for a morning stretch. Eventually drawing your knees into your chest. And then rolling to one side and coming up to a comfortable seat of your choice. We'll meet with our palms together in front of our heart. If you'd like to dedicate your practice to someone special, visualize them now. See their face clearly. And we'll send out the benefits of our practice to them with an exhale. Take a big breath in. Send it out. See them smiling, feeling good in their body, heart, and mind. present to this moment and all that it has to offer. Thank you so much for your practice today. Namaste.